Have you ever stopped to ask, where did the world come from? Or why are there fires and storms? Throughout history, there have always been people who asked these big questions. But what set the earliest philosophers apart wasn't just their curiosity, it was their persistence. When they were told the gods created the world, they didn't stop there. They pushed further. Why did the gods make the world? How did they do it? And, most controversially, who made the gods? These relentless questioners were the first philosophers. At some point, around 2,500 years ago, their questioning became more formalized. This marked the birth of philosophy as a discipline. In different parts of the world, great thinkers emerged, asking questions not just about the world, but about human existence itself. In Greece, there were Thales, Anaximander, and Pythagoras. In China, Confucius. In India, Buddha. They might not have been aware of each other, but their ideas shaped how entire civilizations thought about life. One of the most significant figures in this philosophical revolution was Socrates, a man who forever changed how we think about philosophy. Socrates didn't write down his ideas, but his teachings left an indelible mark. He wasn't interested in just understanding the physical world. Instead, he focused on people, their values, actions, and beliefs. He wanted to know what it meant to live a good life. Socrates lived in Athens and spent his days engaging in conversations with its citizens, questioning their assumptions and pushing them to think deeper. But his relentless questioning wasn't welcomed by everyone. Some saw him as a troublemaker, accusing him of corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods. Ultimately, he was put on trial, found guilty, and sentenced to death by drinking poison hemlock. What made Socrates remarkable wasn't just his ideas, it was his commitment to them. He could have begged for mercy or escaped his sentence, but he chose to stand by his principles, even if it meant dying for them. In doing so, he became a symbol of living with integrity. After Socrates' death, his students carried on his legacy in different ways. Plato, perhaps his most famous student, founded the Academy, one of the first institutions of higher learning in the Western world. Plato focused on big ideas, like the nature of reality and the structure of an ideal society. Other followers of Socrates, like Antisthenes, took a different path. Antisthenes was inspired by Socrates' simple lifestyle and founded the Cynic school, which emphasized living with minimal material possessions. Philosophy began to split into two main paths. One focused on abstract ideas and theories, while the other concentrated on practical advice for living a good life. Unfortunately, over time, the practical side of philosophy faded into the background. Today, when people think of philosophy, they often imagine complicated debates about abstract concepts rather than practical guidance on how to live. But in the ancient world, philosophy was deeply personal. In Athens, there were schools of thought for almost every perspective. The Stoics, for example, taught resilience and living in harmony with nature. They believed in focusing only on what you can control and accepting the rest. The Epicureans encouraged people to seek pleasure, but not in excess, just enough to live a balanced and happy life. The Cynics, on the other hand, believed happiness came from rejecting materialism entirely, embracing simplicity, and learning to want less. These schools weren't just places to study, they were ways of life. When someone joined a school of philosophy, they were committing to living according to its teachings. It shaped their identity, much like religion does for many people today. To truly follow a philosophy meant integrating its principles into every aspect of life. Imagine living in Athens around 300 BCE. You could visit the Agora, the bustling marketplace where Socrates once engaged in debates. There you might find Zeno of Citium teaching under the painted porch, or Stoa Poikile, the birthplace of Stoicism. Nearby, you could encounter a Cynic philosopher, perhaps Crates, passionately discussing how to live a virtuous life. These thinkers believed philosophy wasn't just for scholars, it was for everyone. Outside the city, you might come across Epictetus and his followers in a peaceful garden, growing vegetables and discussing how to live a life free of fear and unnecessary pain. Further still, in a park-like setting, was Plato's Academy, where philosophical theories were explored in depth. Each school had its own unique approach, but all shared the goal of helping people understand how to live better lives. This diversity of thought was one of the strengths of ancient philosophy. There were so many schools, each offering a different path to happiness. The Cyrenaics, for instance, believed pleasure was the ultimate goal in life, while the Cynics argued that true happiness came from rejecting worldly desires. The Stoics struck a balance, encouraging people to enjoy life's pleasures, but not to become attached to them. They even practiced imagining losing the things they valued most as a way to build resilience. Philosophy wasn't just about learning, it was about living. A true philosopher didn't just study ideas, they embodied them. Ancient Greeks and Romans took their philosophical commitments seriously, sometimes even to the point of dressing and behaving in ways that reflected their beliefs. This dedication made philosophy a central part of their identity. But what about today? Sadly, we don't have schools of philosophy like those in ancient Athens. While philosophy is still taught in universities, it's often disconnected from daily life. Most students take philosophy classes because they're required, not because they're seeking a deeper understanding of how to live. And even if they wanted practical advice, they might struggle to find it in modern academic philosophy. Religious institutions sometimes offer guidance on how to live a good life, but their focus is often on moral behavior and the afterlife, rather than practical advice for everyday living. They may teach what it means to be a good person, but they rarely address what it means to live well. This leaves many people today without a clear philosophy of life. They may take bits and pieces from religion, education, and personal experience, but they often lack a cohesive framework for understanding what's truly important. And yet, the need for such a philosophy is as strong as ever. So, where can we turn? One option is to revisit the wisdom of ancient philosophers. By reading their works and learning about their schools of thought, we can create a virtual school of philosophy for ourselves. Whether it's the Stoics teaching resilience, the Epicureans offering lessons on balanced living, or the Cynics challenging us to let go of materialism, there's a wealth of timeless guidance waiting to be explored. Philosophy isn't just about abstract ideas, it's about life. The ancient philosophers knew this, and their teachings remain as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. So, if you're searching for meaning or direction, why not start by exploring the wisdom of the past? It might just help you live a better, more purposeful life.